welcome to another ClimateTech podcast, interviews with the people trying to save us from ourselves. Fungi, however you pronounce it, it's definitely having a moment. I caught up with Susanne Glørsen, founder of the Future is Fungi Award, together with two of the award's winners, Oona West of MycoMine and Jens Laurids Sørensen from Aalborg University. I'm Ryan Grant Little. Thanks for being here. So welcome to the first ever Another ClimateTech podcast with three guests. I'm used to doing one-on-one interviews, and in this case, we actually have three people, Susanne, Oona, and Jens. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
Susanne, I'll start with you because this all kind of originates with you. I know you as a fellow angel investor in climate tech, especially in food tech, but you're here talking about the Future of Fungi Award. You just had the first award ceremony last week, and we have some winners with us as well. Can you talk a little bit about what the Future of Fungi Award is? What made you decide to create it now and what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the award is about uncovering new ways that we can utilize fungi for environmental solutions, right? We've started to see a lot of applications across sectors from the fungal space, but there is so many more ways we can use fungi for the sustainable solutions we need. So the award is really to uncover the new research and innovations and inspire to more research and innovations, right? This field has started to develop, but it's still early, and we have only mapped 4% of fungi globally. So there's still so many unexploited opportunities, which our winners are fantastic examples of. So that's really what the award is about. And it's also about bringing together the whole ecosystem. You can see from the jury, we wanted research, we wanted investors, corporates, the people and organizations and across the ecosystem that is needed if we are to get more research off the ground, if we are innovation to accelerate further. So it's more than just, announcing our winners. We want to really use the award to help the ecosystem to accelerate.
And so we're recording this. It's Monday, November 27th, 2023, and your first award ceremony was last Thursday. I'm curious about what kinds of applications you received also for, some of the organizations or applicants that didn't win, but that were pretty out there, really interesting. I wonder if you want to just give a couple of honorable mentions about the types of interventions that you saw.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just have to say also, we also have fantastic winners here that you will hear more from. I think I'll start with the runner-ups. I think they deserve also the attention. And then I have some sneak peeks into who didn't get it to the podium. But on the research side, we saw microbial CO2 fixation. Incredibly interesting. Using an electrification process, harnessing renewable energy to turn CO2 into formic acid that a yeast, while lipolytica, can consume. And then, you can turn it into more bio-based solutions across feed and fuel materials and chemicals. So this was William Newell from Imperial College of London. From what the jury could see, very novel. We haven't seen this too much out there. And Christina Cogdell and team MycoTech Futures from University of California with the research on recycling textile waste into mycelium materials for the use of fungi. Those were on the research side. Since we had two startup winners, we had a second place on the startup side to Visibuilt, Danish startup utilizing fungi to replace bitumen in asphalt production. Also super novel. I've gotten to know the fungi space quite well now. Still a lot to learn, but we have never seen this. Got a female founder, Danish startup. Super interesting. And it's just maybe mentioning some more. On the research side, we also saw utilizing fungi as computers. Super cool. Huh. And also on the startup side, last one I'll mention, space tech. Space radiation shielding using fungi. Yeah, it's in the space industry. And there's quite a lot of things going on, research and innovation for space tech utilizing fungi in space. Mm-hmm. So this is a up-and-coming thing as well.
Okay, that's a topic I'm going to need to have a separate episode about. That sounds pretty cool. And so you announced 3 winners, 1 in the research category and 2 tied for first place in the startup category. And as I mentioned, 2 of the award winners, Oona of MycoMine and Jens from Aalborg University, are here right now. So tell us a bit about what was special about the winners, that they collectively went home with the first place medal. So maybe start with Novobiom, since you're representing them right now. They're not on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would say, again, we had 2 winners, so they are in the same theme of bioremediation, Novobiom and MycoMine. So there's a lot of similarities that, is also why they're winning. They're showing the way how we can use bioremediation and harnessing, potential in nature to restore nature. So Novobiom, they do microremediation, so they clean up contaminated soil by the use of fungi. And we know that 30% of soil globally is degraded. If we don't change course, 90% of soil will be degraded by 2050. World Economic Forum says that loss of nature and biodiversity is top 4 economic risks in the next decades. And when we know that 57% of biodiversity is underground, it's so crucial to clean up soil. So that is for Novobiom. They also work on converting textile waste into new bioactive compounds. So, for example, for cosmetics, which is also showing the way and being, hope and inspiration of utilizing more bio-based products rather than, chemicals or other more sustainable or unsustainable alternatives. So L'Oreal, they're going 100% bio-based by 2030. And again, fungi is part of a bigger wave of utilizing biology and nature for the solutions we need. McKinsey estimates that 60% of the input for the global economy can be done by biology. So Novobiom, and again, MycoMine, which we have here, and you will hear more from, also focus on microremediation. And it's so powerful to rather, use, I call it the intelligence of nature. I mean, fungi is a natural decomposer and cleaner of the world. And you will hear more from Oona about the field of microremediation. There's such a need to clean up the natural world. And beyond that, just also to say, obviously, that when it comes, to the criteria, we had the environmental relevance, impact, novelty, market potential, value proposition, strategy, customer discovery, and scaling. So these 2 startups scored very high. When it comes to Jens, which is just a fantastic example of, mind-blowing new ways, moonshot ways of utilizing fungi for environmental solutions. I mean, making a bio battery from fungi to store energy. And so the award is so much about showing the potential of what more we can use fungi for. So Jens is such a fantastic example. And, he has a prototype. And, it was just throughout, it just blew the roof from the jury on his application. And again, for what the jury looked at was, again, environmental relevance, how big impact can it have? And we need more sustainable alternatives to store energy. And scientific rigor and potential for commercialization. Yeah, so super strong winners in this first ever The Future's Fungi Award.
Yeah, indeed. So congratulations to both of you. Oona, let's start with you. You're the co-founder and CSO of MycoMine, which runs what kind of look to me like half-size shipping containers that are used to clean up pollution using mycelium. How does that work? Can you tell me how this works as though I were a 10-year-old?
Yeah, okay. I don't talk to many 10-year-olds, but I'll do my best here. So basically, you can think of the MycoCube as pretty much a clever box filled with special fungi. And as we know, Susanne's already given a good introduction to fungi. They're like the superheroes of the natural world. I like to think of them as the Swiss Army knives of biology. I am a microbiologist, but I'm also a microphile. So I know that bacteria can do these kinds of things too, but no one can come close to fungi when it comes to their ability to degrade toxins, etc. So the MycoCube works when you put sort of harmful pollutants like oil or fuels or other nasty chemicals in. The fungi get to work on those chemicals using enzymes, which are like keys that open doors, to put it simply. And they have a special ability to break down these pollutants using, as Susanne said, natural biological processes. So they're basically acting like nature's cleaners. And so they're basically taking nasty stuff and turning it into good stuff, which is called a biomass. So they eat the oil, they grow, the oil's gone, and then you have a useful product left that can be upcycled. So that biomass can be used to make cleaner fuels, pellets, textiles, you name it. We haven't even begun to explore that space yet. And so we're taking pollution and we're giving it back to nature to keep the cycle going or to upcycle it into something useful for us. So basically, our MycoCube helps turn pollution into something that helps the environment. It's also modular. It's like Lego. So the initial cube is basically the size of a small car. And depending on the volume of waste that you want to put through that, it's scalable. So like a Lego blocks, if that makes sense.
Definitely, especially if I was a 10-year-old, my ears perk up when you talk about Lego, for sure.
Yeah, I have a nephew who's obsessed with Lego.
I mean, I'm 42 and I still really like Lego.
Good.
Anyway, you talk about this also being a solution for PFAS, which is also known as forever chemicals, which we see mentioned a lot in the news these days as one of kind of the many wicked problems in the world. So does this mean that forever chemicals don't actually have to be forever?
Well, I mean, nothing's forever, right? And I like to say that fungi take the forever out of the forever chemicals. PFAS are a huge problem. There's over 9,000 of these man-made toxic chemicals that are everywhere, mainly in the water supply. So our next step, we have proof of concept. It's working really well with oil with our MycoCube. We just got funding from Vinova to explore the PFAS space. It's known that some microbes can break down PFAS and also some fungi. The problem with PFAS, what makes them so recalcitrant, what makes them so hard to break down is the carbon-fluorine bond. It's very hard to crack that, but fungi can break it. And so that's a space that we're looking to explore very soon, and we receive funding for that. So, and I have a lot of faith that we're going to come up with something pretty good, some strains that will work very well in our system, in our technology.
I mean, that would really be revolutionary. Can you talk a little bit about the company itself and how far along it is? Do you have,
Sure.
Are you operational? Do you have a pilot facility?
Yep.
Are you fundraising?
We're not fundraising quite yet, maybe next year, 2024. We started in the fall of 2021. So we're about 2 years old now. And we have a pilot that is now permanent in the Ytterby mine in Stockholm in Sweden. This is a mine that's famous for where the element yttrium was discovered, but also after the Second World War, a lot of nasty chemicals and crap basically was stored down there, along with it being a mine where you have fuels from machinery. So, and they have a lot of dirty water that had to be taken care of. And the pilot has worked so well there now that it's become a permanent installation. So yeah, and then we have 3 studies ongoing for pilots. One with Nunas oil refinery, which will be built and become operational this winter into 2024. And we're also working on a pre-project with Yrfala municipality to look at remediation of soils. And we also have something that we're pursuing with another really large company that I can't mention by name, but yeah.
And so is oil and exploration are the types of customers for this as well?
Well, we've started with organics, right? Oil and fungi can do that. We've known that for a long time. I mean, one point I'd like to make is that the bioremediation capability of fungi has been known for quite a while. It's just that it hasn't really been a push or a focus. And I think, Susanne will probably agree with me on this, and other people are out there in the space are saying this. Fungi kind of having a zeitgeist moment right now. I especially noticed it during the pandemic. People were growing mushrooms. Merlin Sheldrake's book, Entangled Life, came out, which I think really inspired. Fantastic book, by the way. If you haven't read it, you should. Really kind of inspired people, I think. And I think maybe the lockdowns had something to do with it. I don't know. But they seem to have entered, fungi seem to have entered, that sphere where people are like, oh, mushrooms, they're not just mushrooms, because mushrooms are the fruit. It's like saying the apple is the tree. So there's a lot of exploration needed, but it's not new. It's just now it's gaining momentum. And like anything in science, people need to be educated to be aware, to be able to get the funding, the interest, the impetus. And that's why I think Susanne, with her award, she deserves huge kudos for instigating this award and getting this together, because I've been a mycophile my whole life. All of us at MycoMine are. We're not so weird, because we knew that fungi were fantastic all along, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, I'll stop waffling on. I just get very excited about it.
I really feel you with the topic about this being like a zeitgeist issue right now, and more. I mean, it's everything from, how to treat depression and addiction through to food and alternative proteins. And I think more and more people are realizing that there are so many applications for this, and it communicates between trees. Susanne, you want to say something?
Yeah. If I could just add that we are seeing that fungi is getting more attention, but it has been so under-focused, under-researched, underfunded. So it's so on time to put fungi on the stage, right? And give it all the credit, and giving the researchers the credit and the space, right? There's been a lot of focus on bacteria. And I mean, Jens can also talk about how it's about time that fungal research gets more attention and innovation, right? So it's having a moment, but we have a lot to catch up on, right? And when it comes to sustainability, we have so little time to get this planet on a more sustainable trajectory. So we can need to a lot of focus so we can accelerate the possibilities.
And Jens, I'd heard of so many different applications for fungi, but a bio battery for energy storage, this is the first time I've heard of this. That's a new one for me. Can you talk a bit about the type of research you do and how it led you to this discovery?
Yeah, I can do that. Maybe I'll take you back to when everything started, because 8 years ago, my research group were primarily working with fungi only and really trying to find new compounds. And as we already heard, that fungi are so amazing. They produce so many different compounds that we were just out there fishing for new compounds and then seeing what they can do. But then we also look out of our windows from our labs and there's the world outside. And here, climate change is a huge thing, of course, that affects all of us. And so keeping that in mind, I heard about a type of battery called redox flow battery. And so these batteries are not just like normal solid batteries. They are extremely big, full with 2 liquid tanks. And in those tanks, there are 2 electrolytes. One electrolyte that donates an electron and another one that accepts this electron. And then you have a flow of electrons. So I heard about that. Well, that's good. But those batteries, they were based on metal ions. And metal ions comes from mining. So that's not very sustainable. And that does not rhyme with green transition. So then 8 years ago, or 9 years ago, a new type of batteries were developed based on organic molecules. They're called quinones. And that's more promising. However, they were also based on molecules. So these quinones, they were extracted from oil-based molecules. So again, not super sustainable. So I heard about this, and then going back to fungi, the fungal world is full of these type of molecules. These are the ones that give fungi their beautiful color. So I knew that. And then came the idea that taking the fungal pigments, the fungal quinones, and then using them to make a battery. That was the starting point. And then I used the very nice model that we have on Aalborg University, where we have so many good students that can perform projects and just do follow all our crazy ideas. And then I had a bachelor group to begin with. They extracted one type of quinone from a fungus, and then we built together a rock battery prototype, bits and pieces that we have lying around, and it worked. And that was in 2015. So we used this very rough prototype to convince Novo Nordisk Foundation in Denmark and the Danish Research Council to give us a huge amount of money to pursue this idea. And then we were able to build up a huge network based on scientists both from Aalborg University, but also the Technical University in Denmark. And then we set out to find the best possible fungal quinone, and we found one that is super good. And then we optimized all the extraction procedures and everything. And then we built our prototype and proved that it actually worked.
Cool.
And what kind of applications do you foresee for this? So coming out of the lab, coming out of the university, is this something that is going to have a commercial or industrial role in the next years, in our lifetime, or what do you foresee?
Yeah, absolutely. This is something that we plan on seeing relatively shortly. Hopefully within 5 years, we will be moving out of our labs and testing it on-site, and on-site for these type of batteries. So this is not something you put into your car. Mm-hmm. This is going to be extremely big. So imagine 3 or 4 stories buildings type of that scale battery. And they are used to because the big problem in green transition is that you rely on electricity produced by windmills and solar panels. This is all super good when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing. I mean, I live in Denmark. The sun is definitely not shining all the time.
Yeah.
So that's a problem. And also the wind is not super reliable. So we have to store that energy somehow when it's produced. And then when people come home from work and they want to charge their electrical car and they want to have heating and make dinner and wash their clothes, then they need electricity. And that's where these type of batteries, they will come in. So that will be the application for our battery as well. And the hardware battery itself is something that's already existing. So they're based on either the vanadium ions or the synthetic quinone. So what we can do is we can take that hardware and then we can put in our own fungal produced electrolytes.
And so, Jens, you're an associate professor at Aalborg University, and Oona, you're a research scientist at the University of Arizona. How do you balance these academic roles together with now what looks like, the potential for a major ClimateTech startup?
Yeah, well, that's amusing to me. Thanks for that compliment. But myself and my MycoMine colleagues, we wouldn't recognize ourselves as big, fancy clean tech founders, more like nerdy scientists. But we're proud of that. Seriously, though, the MycoMine team, I mean, we've been balancing other roles whilst establishing MycoMine, multitasking, spinning multiple plates, for want of a better phrase. It's something that we're well used to. And in fact, it is actually the life of a scientist as well as an entrepreneur, right? It's a fact of life for us, having to deliver your current research goals and project deliverables, managing and developing next generation of researchers, while constantly keeping your eye on the future, right? And all of that for seeking new research funding and novel ideas and innovations, and all in a tight financial envelope, right? The two are very similar. I mean, in the US, funding has become very tight. I was in Europe until 2 years ago, and it's pretty similar there. I mean, I can see Jens is smiling at that. But I think we're able to do this because we have an absolute passion and drive for what science can achieve, and especially with fungi. And I think MycoMine is proof of that. It's a technology is great for the environment, cleaning up industrial waste, and critically for local populations, I want to mention, as the byproduct of our MycoCube is water that is potable. It's 99.9% pure. And, some of the most polluting industries are often located where access to clean water is not available. For example, Bangladesh, second biggest producer of clothing in the world, which ties into textiles again and how fungi can be used there, which people are exploring. Africa, where there are multiple disused mines. Even where I live currently in Arizona, many, many legacy mine tailings, mine sites that are polluting the water supplies. And for me, and I know for my colleagues, it's just amazing to contemplate the positive impacts and potential that our technology can bring to improve the environment and the lives of others. Sorry, Susanne wanted to say something there. And it's a privilege and a pleasure for me to be involved in the development of this and what we really feel is a truly global solution to a major environmental issues, and not just oil, which is, why we're branching out into other chemicals like the not so forever ones.
Yeah, if I could just comment on what Oona said. There's such a fantastic example of, commercialization research. Researchers taking the step out to bring the research into real world solutions. And we need more of that. I mean, so much of our sustainability challenges the solutions will come from research. We need to get that out in the world. So fantastic example with MycoMine here.
Yeah. And I just would like to add, so the research that we do is not actually, I don't actually do this research at the University of Arizona. We have our own lab now, and our early pilots are in Sweden. This is a Swedish-based company, just to be clear on that. I'll get back there one day. I'm working on it.
I want to ask about that in a second also. But
sure.
So Jens, how do you balance the role of being an academic and now potentially also a startup founder? What does the path forward look like? Will this be a dual role for you going forward?
I think that's going to be a difficult task. I see myself as a researcher. I like to investigate things, and making something commercial plan can be difficult. Then I'd rather have the possibility to hire one that can dedicate he or herself to this work, because that for this to become a commercial success, then it requires, I guess, almost 100% dedication and allocated time for this, which that is difficult for me because of the academic stuff that I also have to fulfill. So I would like to see myself as one that's part of the success that we'll hopefully have, but the main driver or worker on this will have to be hopefully a young, skilled person with a keen interest in fungi.
Fair. And Oona, you mentioned that maybe in a couple of years you'll be back in Sweden. So all three of you are Scandinavian. Is fungi, is this a Scandinavian topic? Is this a coincidence? Or Susanne, or is there some bias at play here with the winners? What's going on?
Well, I'm not Scandinavian, though. I do have Swedish and Norwegian genetics. I'm originally from England. I'm English. I'm also an American citizen, so I'm a dual national. But up until 2 years ago, I spent 7 years in Denmark and in Sweden. So
got it. Okay.
Yeah, and just from my side, I mean, we've had so focus on Fungi global. This is a global award, and we saw applications from more than 70 countries, which is fantastic. And then luckily we've had a fantastic jury from so many countries assessing this, right? But yeah, we saw a big Nordic representation in the end. But we also had UK, US, and Brussels, or Belgium. But next year, I do hope we can mobilize more of Asia, Latin America, Africa in the award. And we do see a lot of applications coming in.
Yeah, and I can also add that maybe part of the Danish success in this, that we actually try to have a strong network in Denmark, in our fungal community, where we have started to meet quite often and discuss ideas back and forth. And that's something that has been initiated by Lene Lange, and we've been really, really grateful for that, all of us, because that really helps us to work together, find new ideas, and collaborate with people that you might not have collaborated with before. And that is really I think that's going to be a huge strength for the Danish mycological society.
What are some of the things? So all three of you are obviously very deep into this topic. Just taking off your hat as founders or the founder of this prize, what are some of the things in this industry that you're super excited about, or some of the potential that's coming down the pipeline with fungi in general?
For me, I can just say I'm so excited. I get so fascinated to see, some of the truly breakthrough things coming out. I mean, it could also be we're seeing research from Aalborg University on self-healing materials. So not only using fungi as a material, but actually as a self-healing material, which you can activate to come alive and then make passive again, so that the living material can repair itself. You can have shoes that can repair itself, or material that can repair. So there's so much coming out. And again, I just want to say it's such an important point Jens is making of, bringing the community, the network coming together in order to accelerate this and, find a new way of how we can use fungi. So that is also so much an mission with award. It's not just an award. It's an award, it's just the start. This is about bringing the global ecosystem together, hopefully, and how, being the mycelium, bringing the connections between researchers and other researchers. They would like to collaborate more with industry. What is the challenges in the industry? Agriculture. What is needed of research?
Yeah.
So it's such and Oona is very, agreed to this, and it's such an important Denmark has been fantastic with Lena, which is an advisory board, bringing the ecosystem together. It's needed. And also because this has been a bit under-focused area. So the motivation, inspiration from meeting others, collaborating, I think is crucial.
Yeah. For me, I'm very much excited to see what biotechnology and combined with AI, where that's going to take us. I think it's going to be incredibly important in exploring this biochemical space, the alchemy of fungi. That's something I'm very interested in and pursuing using at some point. I'm also very passionate about the idea of fungi being used for education and outreach to teach about what's going on with the planet, with global climate change. There are a lot of citizen scientists out there working in mycology. I mean, you can now go out, pick a mushroom in your local forest, bring it home, PCR it and sequence it. And there's a lot of really good science getting done by people without PhDs. I think that's something that should be encouraged because, the diversity of fungi is immense. We've only scratched the surface in figuring out how many species there are. And I think there's a big role for the public to play there. And also the symbiotic associations that we have to think about, right? Fungi are not just doing these things on their own. They're interacting with the prokaryote world, the bacteria, the archaea, animals, plants. And as a microbiologist and as a symbiosis researcher in previous iterations, I think that's incredibly important that fungi don't exist in isolation. They're interacting, the mycelium interacts with everything. So, there are some really good connections that can be made, I think. And the analogy of researchers, the public, education interacting like a mycelium is a really nice metaphor that really speaks to me. Yeah. It sounds a bit woo, but there's some real elements of truth and it really speaks to me. And once you know fungi, you're not going to go back. They really kind of they inspire either really great love or great disgust in people. It's really interesting because people just know mushrooms, right? We have to evangelize for the fungi because they are actually going to save this planet. I'm convinced of it.
And Susanne, I'm happy that you brought this up because I wanted to know what happens with the award from now. Do we just wait until next year and kind of we see you again next year? But it sounds like you're going to be working on building this community in the meantime. And I wonder if you want to talk about how people can get in touch or get connected if they want to be a part of this community.
Yeah, as I said, award is just the start. This is about how can we bring research come alive and rebuild solutions and help that, foster that, and help the startups out there in the way we can. So we really say together we accelerate the fungi revolution. So we are working to bridge the ecosystem or gather the ecosystem and help out the way we can. I'll come back more to that. But also, given my background from finance and the capital is a tool for change or for, accelerating the sustainable solutions we need. So we need more capital to backing more research, commercialization of research, obviously investing in startups. So that's also an area because we are also seeing moonshot research not continuing because of lack of funding. So that's also an area we work with. And as you know, Ryan, I also run a syndicate of investors interested in investing in fungi-focused startups. So if any investors are interested in joining us to invest in some of these fantastic opportunities of startups, they can get in touch with me.
And I'm going to link all of your LinkedIn profiles in the show notes. But I want to point out also that listeners can tune in to see the award ceremony itself with some keynotes and artists making music from fungi at the award homepage, which is futureisfungi.org/award-ceremony. Susanne, Oona, Jens, thank you so much for joining today.
Thank you. It was a real pleasure to speak with you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for listening to another ClimateTech podcast. It would mean a lot if you would subscribe, rate, and share this podcast. Get in touch anytime with tips and guest recommendations at hello@climatetechpod.com. Find me, Ryan Grant Little, on LinkedIn. I'll be back with another episode next week. Bye for now. This episode is supported by Grizzle, B2B content to create and capture demand. I first met Grizzle's founder, Tom Watley, 5 years ago at a conference in Dublin. I was so impressed that I signed a deal with him to do all my software company's content that same evening at the pub. Remember that, Tom?
Kinda.
And they're still doing it 2 years after we sold the company because the new owners love Grizzle as much as I do. If you sell B2B, book 30 minutes in Tom's calendar at grizzle.io/climate. That's GRIZZLE.io/climate.